One of the connections between breath and intellect is through the idea of word or logos,
Speaking.
because
Yeah.
because speaking is the manifestation of intellect, and speaking is, words are pushed by this breath, and so the
Breath.
breath pushes out the sounds, and so there's an obvious relationship between the manifestation of intellect and breath. And you see that in the story of Genesis itself, again, when God speaks in order to separate the things of the world. God speaks and so you have to kind of almost see this image of this breath that is above the earth, and then it becomes the vehicle for God's intellect to manifest itself and create the world.
And importantly, the first words that come out of God's mouth are, let there be light. Okay? So it says the breath of God, or the Spirit of God, or the wind of God hovered over the waters, and then God said, with that breath, let there be light. So the light is, in ancient cosmology, is meaning. It represents the intellect, the meaning, the principle, the idea. So that which gives meaning to other things, that which defines things. It's the logos, it's the word, it's reason, it's logic, it's things of that nature.
Yeah, there's this verse in that, I think it's Christ who actually says that, who says the eye is the light of the body. And I remember you always read more boring, you always read these annoying materialists who just see that as a kind of misunderstanding of science. Once again, failing to realize that people weren't materialists 2,000 years ago, to see it rather in that sense, that when you take into account the consciousness in the scope of how the world exists, if you take into account the fact that consciousness mediates between the potentiality of the world, and then the capacity for that world to have sense and have meaning, then the idea that the eye is the light, is the lamp of the world, makes total sense, because
light is meaning in ancient cosmology. Light,
to look at something is to separate it from the potentiality, and to define it, to make it into a concrete, not to make it, but to participate in its appearance as a concrete thing, right? Because I mean, you could separate it into atoms and neutron, whatever, and subatomic particles, but we don't. It's focused, it's coherent, and that human consciousness is part of that emergent phenomena.
Yeah, so I think that's yet another example of how we have to redefine words, because the definition of light today is again a materialistic definition, but in the past, in ancient cosmology, it was not the same at all. So it's extremely important to re-understand the meaning of light in a traditional cosmology when reading the Bible.
Once again, it's not hard to do that, because all you have to do is to understand it in terms of phenomenology, in terms of how the phenomena, how we interact with that phenomena. I mean, light is that which makes things visible. That's what light is. It isn't in a human experience. Light is not a wave or a particle, or the speed of light is not. All those things are not important in the way we interact with it in our everyday life. Light is that which makes things appear, it makes them visible. It turns, if you walk into a dark room in the absolute darkness, you're gonna bump into things. You're gonna not know what's there. You could die. You could fall into a hole. Anything could happen. But when the light goes on, then all of a sudden things become clear, and things become separate. Things become unified in your experience.
Well defined.
Yes, well defined in your experience. And that's what light is. That's why, like you said, that's why the first thing God creates is light, because it's that possibility.
Synonymous with speaking, with word, with language.
Yeah.